there are ways to be creative in all fields. You don't have to be using glitter and glue. All right, so welcome everybody. This is Julie Donaldson, and I know her as Julie. She's Julianne to you. Let's let Julie say hi, and then we'll get started. And you can say anything you want, Julie.
Hey everyone. I wore makeup for like the first time in I don't know how long.
I first off want to say, oh, and by the way, Elevenses, if you don't know, is tea at 11. And so I have my tea here. And I sent Julie some treats in the mail, but she did not receive them. So we will not be eating treats. But if you have treats, please go ahead and get them. That's what Elevens is all about. It's like right after second breakfast. So here we go. Julie, I'd like to, let's first say, probably lots of people ask you, but when was it that you thought you wanted to be a writer?
It's interesting. I feel like now that writers like are online and people have access to them, it's something that enters into people's minds. Like, oh, I could be a writer. But when I was growing up, there was no one like that. I read the Narnia books and I read Madeleine L'Engle and I loved their books, and that seemed so out of reach that I never dreamed of being a writer.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a possibility. And I love that now that, like, as a writer, I can connect to other people who are also aspiring to be writers, and they can see like, oh yeah, that's something I can do too. So I studied English in college, which is not required for being a writer, by the way. I didn't take creative writing. I was studying literature, and and I started having babies, and I really wanted to be home and present with them and raise them right. And so that's what I was doing. And then I kind of just like lost my sanity with doing that. I had 2 little kids, under the age of 3. And I just thought, if I can't find an intellectual and creative outlet for myself, like I'm going to lose myself. And that's when I started writing. That's when I had the dream of being a published writer. And it just started with a small thing, like getting an article in a magazine.
Right.
Which was how we got to know each other.
That's why that's why I got to meet Julie. It was kind of like the equivalent of seeing a girl on the playground and being like, I like her shoes. Yeah. She's someone to know. And so I had a very similar start. I was losing my mind. I had a kid, like barely 10 months after I got married. And then it was just like I could feel my soul like wasting away. So I thought, oh, I think I'm going to start writing. This could be something that I could do. And so we had actually a mutual friend, and then you and I ended up living in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I met you, and then you said that you had been published in Parenting Magazine, and I was like, oh.
That's how I won her over. I was desperate for a friend who liked the same things I liked. And, sometimes it's hard to find friends who are interested in, and I tried all the other things, the quilting and the decorating and the baking. And I was like, oh, I want to do something with my mind a little bit more than my hands.
Yeah. I find that because it's more of an intellectual pursuit, I feel like it is kind of solidified our friendship more, because we've been kind of always working towards something. Like,
right.
We're kind of both in this momentum towards something bigger. And I don't know how other friendships work, but I think this is a great way to have a friend. So to be like that, and to have kind of a similar goal. So, all right. So once you did that, you had a little article published in a parent magazine. What was next?
Yeah. So then I was like, that just kind of whet my appetite for it. I was like, my words are in print. Other people can read them. I want more. Like, I just got hungry for more and more and more. And but I was still thinking small. And in the back of my head, I thought maybe someday when my kids are grown, I'll go back to school, I'll get a master's degree, and someone will teach me how to write a novel, and then I'll write a novel. And because that's something that someone has to teach you, like not something you can just figure out, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was working on like short stories, and I was getting a lot more things published in magazines, and I was really focused on children's literature because my kids were young. I was reading them lots of picture books, and so that's what I was writing. And it's so hard to get a picture book published. I still haven't been able to do it. But you know, after years of doing that, I finally got something. I got paid for my writing. I had some, like a little short story for a magazine, and they paid me, and then I was really hooked. Then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can make money with this, and I love seeing my stuff in print. So
Yeah. So when I first started looking at novels, I was, or even considered writing, I just thought, well, all I need to do is, I'll have to write something nonfiction because there's no way I could write a novel because I don't do that, which is kind of a funny thing because when you're in your 20s, it's not like you come out of high school writing novels. Most people don't. I think more people do now with the wave of Harry Potter.
yeah, and fanfic and all of the ways that you can get your writing out there online. I think it's a lot more common now, but yeah, definitely not something that I even thought possible. I mean, so when I started trying to get published, I was going to the library and checking out the book of of publishers, you know, and you would just look through like, what are they looking for? How do you submit? What do they pay? And it was so old school. But here's what really made me think about writing novels. I'm so embarrassed to admit
Don't be
that
embarrassed because you know what? I don't,
I've
there's no
admitted
reason
this
to be
plenty of
embarrassed.
times.
And you know what? We like at Elevenses Society, we just stay positive and and even if we're embarrassed, we just say it loud and strong because somebody else might be in the same situation and we don't want them to feel embarrassed either. So go right ahead.
Okay, so Twilight changed my life. So
I mean,
remember,
like there I find it interesting that the whole world has gone completely done a 180 on her and turned her into a monster. Like
I,
she she wrote a book. I think it's wonderful. She got an idea, she wrote a book, and she wrote it quickly, but like she had she had read thousands and thousands of books in her life. And maybe it's not your cup of tea, but it's like I don't know. She gave people permission. I think that was the big wave of a lot of YA writers. A lot of women thought if she can do it, I can do it.
yeah, you know, Twilight really was like the book that kind of gave me permission to just jump in and try writing a novel. Because I mean, I read it, I was I stayed up all night reading it. I mean, I was hooked. I
Yeah.
was falling in love with Edward. I was so like, oh, I haven't read a book like this in forever. And, you know,
Yeah.
so then I was seriously researching Stephanie Meyer. And she sounded so much like me, you
Oh
know?
yeah. She was like you, only like she was like me and you, like, but just 3 years ahead of us.
Yeah. I was like, oh, our background is the same, our education is the same, our, you know, she didn't take creative writing classes either. And she just did it. This really gave me that push where I just felt daring. And I was like, I'm gonna try. And so because I'd been reading so much Georgette Hare growing up, she was, you know, she was a big influence on me. And I thought, I want to write something like Georgette Hare, but something that is more approachable with the language, you know, because I think her language is so period accurate that sometimes it can just be an obstacle for people who aren't really immersed in reading that genre. And I just thought that's what I want to do. And I spent years writing.
Yep.
That was Edenbrooke, and I spent years writing that.
I remember that feeling of just excitement when, and I don't know if people today feel it as much. I know that there are a lot of people that start writing and then they self-publish like that year. And then I think that their reasoning is, doesn't have to be great. I can learn as I go and then sell these books and kind of sell books while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like we had this big dream out there. And so we were just like excited, kind of excited all the time. And
Well, and
so,
self-publishing wasn't really a big thing at that time
well, and
either.
it wasn't lucrative. If you became a self-publisher, you were also a marketer and the printer and
Yeah.
the distribution center and everything else. So, okay, so why don't you tell everybody what was the most important and most necessary thing that we did?
We went to England.
Yes, we did. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I had been writing, and when I started writing Edenbrooke, and I really got into novel writing, I was like, I was so enamored with it. I felt so passionate about my characters and my world and my dreams and goals and aspirations. And at the time, I was married, but not but I was married, and my husband had been a full-time student our whole marriage. It had been 9 years of him being a full-time student while we had 4 babies. And I did all of the work to support us financially while I was raising the 4 babies. So I was, I ran an eBay business, and I cleaned houses, and I taught piano lessons, and I was an accompanist for a voice teacher. And I mean, all the little side jobs I could scrounge up. And it just felt like I was never going to reach my dream, but because he was always going to be in school. But if I could get a book published, then it would open things up for us.
Yeah.
And um,
So you
so,
started seeing it as like a viable career option for you that was also pretty much necessary.
right.
And so it seems like a lot of women kind of feel like in order to do something really cool that they like, they have to justify, it's easier to justify it if they can make money with it. And I think a lot of people feel like that. So you decided it was like time to
Mhm.
spend the money.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous because we'd been just scraping together pennies for so many years, and just the audacity to say, um, I want to go to England. I want to go to England and research this book that I'm writing, because I really think that that's really going to make my book great. And that was like the turning point for me. Like really investing in this dream became huge, because it wasn't just that I went and got research for my book. It was that I went and then I came home and I became someone who sent herself to England to research a book she's writing. Like my coolness factor in my own mind was suddenly like way up here, where before I had been just kind of the bedraggled, I don't know who I am. I'm, covered in spit up all the time, kind of a mom, and I love being a mom. It's my first priority, and I don't disparage it, but going to England was just that turning point. So I called Jaime, and I said, and Jaime was married to a pilot, so she could fly on standby. Called her, it was July of 2007.
7. Mm-hmm.
And I said, can you meet me in England in a week? And she said, yeah. It was amazing. And I scraped together enough money to buy the cheapest ticket possible, but it meant I had to fly all these
Lots
different,
of legs.
lots of,
Okay. Can I tell from my perspective?
yes, yes.
So I so that movie The Holiday had just come out. And if you've seen it, it's a holiday movie, so you probably have, because we watch it every year. But when Kate Winslet flies out, she's squished between two old ladies. And when Cameron Diaz flies out, she's got a bed and a stack of books and an eye mask. So Julie was Kate Winslet and I was Cameron Diaz.
Yes.
Julie left a full 24 hours before I did and arrived 3 hours after I arrived. And then because Julie had the better credit card for getting a car, like renting a car or hiring a car. So she had to put the car in her name, which meant she was the only driver. And then poor Julie had to do all the driving. And I was just like feeling helpless. And we didn't have Google Maps. We had actual maps. And it was quite the adventure. We had a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. And the kind of jet lag I was experiencing after like 2 red eyes.
Oh, and Julie has hypoglycemia.
I do.
So I would be like, I brought like trail mix from the plane because, you know, if you fly space available, you don't know if you're going to get first class or if you're going to get, you know, the back of the plane. And I got first class. So I had saved all this trail mix because it was still after like they stopped giving. Anyway, I had trail mix and it was really good. And I would be like, well, let's just have trail mix and then get going. And Julie was like, you don't understand. If I eat another nut or dried piece of fruit, I'm gonna kill something. It was pretty much like that.
It was. Yeah, you have to, if you're going to travel with me, you have to plan on me grazing constantly. Give me good meals.
What did you find was like the biggest takeaway? So like once you went, you said that you came back and you felt like really legitimized for what you had done. Yeah. And you felt like, okay, you're grabbing hold of your career. And then what was the process from that point on?
Yeah. So then I got pregnant with baby number 4. And I took a break from writing because I can't write when I'm pregnant. I don't know why. So I took about 1.5 years off, and I was right in the middle of writing my novel, and it was the messiest way to go about writing a novel. I had like chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 13, 14, 26, you know, and then I kept rewriting those scenes over and over and over again because I didn't know what I was missing. I knew I was missing half a book, but I didn't know what it was. So so I put it away, and then I started to miss my characters and I missed writing. And I saw that one of my favorite authors was going to be at the library doing a like a symposium for like librarians and teachers. Her name was Donna Jo Napoli. She's pretty brilliant. She writes like she rewrites fairy tales, but they're so unique, you know. So she was there. So I went to the symposium, and I went to a Q&A class with her. And then I very bravely raised my hand and I said, because this is how I was feeling about my story at the time. I said, have you ever started a story that was not worth finishing? Because that's how I felt. I was like, this is so dumb. I don't even know why I would want to finish this. And she said, no. She says, the first time I write a story, I write for myself. And then if I decide I want to share it with other people, then I will get reviewers and get editors and have other readers get involved, and then I'll edit. But when you write, you only wear your writing hat, and you can't wear the editing hat when you're writing. It just stops the flow. It stops the creativity, right?
Paula's totally shaking her head. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. There's also I would also recommend NaNoWriMo if you want to get everything out of your head.
Yes.
In November, just do that.
Yes.
That was my kind of thing where I actually finished a novel. I'd written a bunch, but I'd never finished it. Once you finish one, you start to finish the others. But
yes. And finishing that first one, I think, was the biggest hurdle for me. And setting aside my own inner editor and, you know, the perfectionist, all of that. I discovered, so once I went to that symposium, I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to talk to more authors. I need to learn from other writers. Like, that was so helpful for me just to ask her that one question. So the next best thing I did was I spent $800 on a week-long writers conference. And that's when it really helped fill in all the missing pieces. I was like, oh, okay, I am missing subplots and minor characters. That's what's missing from my story. I can't just have a story about my two main characters and nothing else.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because you know the way to write a novel is like tension, and is to have some tension in there, and just simply turning your attention away from the main two characters, like the reader wants to stay with them the whole time. They do. That's where the momentum is going, and that's the exciting. It's fun to hang out with Philip, your main character. It's fun to hang out with him, and it's fun to see where things are going, but you can't be there the whole time, because if you do, it's just. But once you start spending time with other characters, you're like, all right, I want to get back to Philip. And that's a tension that the reader sort of brings to it that also kind of pushes it forward. So I want to look at some of the comments. So people are writing that they love Georgette Hare, and oh, that's a good question, Valerie. I'll ask that in a second. Let's see. And then I see some good questions. I'm going to get to some of those. And then Valerie also said she likes Hush by Donna Jo Napoli. So I wanted to say too, I liked what you said about that first experience. And you said it was like the worst way to write a novel, but I think for the beginner, it could be maybe one of the best ways, even though it's an absolute mess afterwards. But you just write the scene that you want to write, and then you write the next scene that you want to write, and then you write the next scene that you want to write. You spend time where it's fun. And this is why, because fun scene to fun scene to fun scene builds some momentum that gets you, then you might have 20,000 words of all the fun stuff, or maybe 40,000. But then you're like, wow, I have 40,000 words. And that's an accomplishment in and of itself. So, but it is messy, because then what? Tell everybody how long it took, because somebody was asking how long it took you to write Edenbrooke. You started, when did you started in like 2006 or 2007?
2006. Yeah, because I had been writing for a year when we went to England. Right. And then I took a year and a half off when I had my fourth. And then I spent, so then 2009 was when I went to the writers' conference, and I realized I know how to fix this. I know how to finish this story. And then I finished it that year. And then it was just like, it wasn't very good. And then I spent the next year rewriting and submitting to agents, all of whom rejected me. And then the following year, so it was 5 years total from start to publication.
How did you decide on the beginning? Like, what was the thing that made you think of Mr. Whittles and the tree and everything like that?
That's a good question. Well, so let me just answer it a different question. How did you start? So I don't write from the beginning, and I don't write in order. I write the scene that kind of comes alive for me. So when I've kind of tapped into my muse or my inspiration, and I get a feel for my characters, or like what I want to do with the story, then that's the scene that I write. So for this one, I was feeling like there's not a lot to laugh about in my daily life. I want to write a scene that makes me laugh. And I remember standing at my kitchen sink doing dishes while kids are like jumping on the table behind me or something crazy. And I just thought, it can even be ridiculous. What's the most ridiculous, funny thing I could think of? And I came up with the milkmaid song from the scene at the inn, you know, where Marianne's like, big cows, lumps of meat, you know, like, I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing I can think of. I didn't even think I would actually leave that in the story, but it made me laugh. And I thought, why would somebody sing a song like that? You know, what kind of situation would lead to that, to that, this ridiculous thing happening? And the more I could find humor in it, like, the more I enjoyed it. And so, you know, that was the very first scene that I wrote. And then I kind of just worked my way backwards. Like, why would she be at an inn? Why would Marianne be at an inn? What is she trying to get away from? And most of it was just what entertains me, you know? So I had well, so then we went to England, right? We went to Bath, and I saw the Royal Crescent, and it was just so beautiful. And I thought, oh, this is a beautiful place to live. What was Marianne thinking? Why wouldn't she like to be in Bath? I'd love to live in Bath. But I thought, okay, so her grandmother's rich, so they would have lived in the Royal Crescent. And maybe she just misses being in the countryside. And maybe she's got this icky suitor who's chasing her. And my own just personal, one of my own personal aversions has to do with mouths. And so that just became something. And, you know, it was just all ridiculous, all of it. And I feel like that whole story, you know, all of Edenbrooke was just a complete indulgence for me. Like, you know, the most ridiculous or the most romantic or the most, you know, just kind of spend as much time with those characters as I wanted to. It's just all indulgence.
Yeah. I think indulgence is a great word. I mean, I think a lot of people, my definite editor in my mind is going, well, what's this person going to think? And what's this person going to think? And you can't, you know, it's scary to write something indulgent, because indulgent means people know what you like and they know your deepest, darkest desires.
Yeah.
But that's usually what resonates with everyone. The person that asked about Mr. Whittles also asked about the tree. And I remember something that you had said. One of the books that I had read when we were first starting out was Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. And she has this fantastic advice, which is every morning you wake up, and I don't think it has to be the morning. Everybody wants your morning. Everybody who has ideas about your life and how you should live it always want to take over your morning. But Natalie says to just take 20 minutes and you write as fast as you can. You just write the word that's in your head and you write the next word and the next word and the next word. And she says that she can tell if her students are doing it right because the punctuation's gone, the handwriting's messier. You might get 1 or 2 words per line. It's just right, stream of consciousness the whole time. Natalie calls it the compost writing. And from that compost writing, that's where flowers and seeds of things grow. Like you get, you know, I had a compost pile once, and the following year I threw a pumpkin in it, and the following year we got pumpkins out of it. So it's just, you think it's garbage, but then you get something beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so my word that always turned up was oceans, water, ocean, waves, you know, all the time. But then, and then Julie, you were doing it and you said that it was tree. Like you always had a tree that came up in your compost writing.
That is so cool that you remember that.
That's why we have friends.
I know. I don't think I would have been able to say why. Oh, but yes, I mean, trees are everywhere in Edenbrooke. Edenbrooke is all about trees. It's the orchard. It's the tree on the hill. It's the, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's all about trees. And it's interesting how it's interesting how something will come to the surface of your creative well and what you can do with that. You know,
Yeah.
I think I saw someone in the chat said, how was writing Blackmoore different? Different from writing Edenbrooke? I think, Blackmoore was such a different story for me. And I was so inspired by different things, So Edenbrooke, I was so inspired by Southern England, and it's so garden-like and green and beautiful, and the trees and kind of all of the things I wanted when I was younger, like a horse. and and then Blackmoore was, I wanted to try writing a Gothic romance. I just felt like trying something totally different, instead of being in that green, sunny, uh, garden-like Southern England. I went north to the coast, and it was very moody, and I wanted my story to match my setting. Um, and I discovered birds, and I discovered birdsong. And
Hold on a sec. I'm sure you're coming. The picture that you're frozen on is really pretty. You look great. So that's good. Because it could be a not so great face. Okay, there you go.
was I like this? And I was frozen.
No,
okay.
So
What?
you were talking about birds in England and birdsong. That's the last that we heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then I discovered, as I decided, for me, writing Blackmoore was less about pulling from my own young self and more about discovering inspiration in my research. And so I found it really inspiring to go and just find things to weave into my story, themes and ideas. And I just kind of gravitated to Faust and the idea of making a bargain with the devil, and different Greek mythology. And that was inspired when I went to England a second time when I was writing Blackmoore, and I went to Castle Howard, and I saw this beautiful, the dome inside. When you walk into the foyer, there's a domed ceiling, and it's covered in this painting of, I'm going to get the wrong name. The guy, it's in Blackmoore. I recreated it, but it's the guy that, was it the guy with the wings who fell, or the guy in the chariot who jumped?
Icarus?
Icarus.
Do you mean Icarus, like
Daedalus?
close to the sun?
Yeah, it was one of those. It was either Icarus or
what did you say, Paula?
Daedalus.
Yeah.
Oh, Daedalus. Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those. Anyways, so again, my traveling really and my research really created, the different elements of my story that I was looking for. So I just found things that intrigued me, and I thought, oh yeah, I want to learn more about that. I want to learn more about this German composer, and I want to and all of those things really added depth to that story and just made it really a different writing process than when I was writing Edenbrooke. And Edenbrooke was so much more, like I said, indulgent. Just, what's the cutest, funniest, flirtiest, whatever thing I can write. And then I wanted to challenge myself more when I was writing Blackmoore. So
just kind of tapping into some of those darker themes. I really appreciated the way that you did that, because I felt like, Edenbrooke was definitely like from one fun to the next, and some darkness, but not darkness necessarily that we all experience. I've never run into a highwayman.
yeah.
Like there was some drama for sure, but I appreciated Blackmoore and just kind of opening up that idea about our relationships with moms, like mothers. Some people, a lot of people have, like, mothers are in general wonderful, but sometimes they've got their own issues and it spills over onto the kids. And I appreciated how you explored that. And I thought that was, it was insightful and something maybe a lot of people who maybe read your first book were not expecting for the second book. But it felt more real, like more real to me. Not that there's nothing, you know, not that there's fun, and indulgence is real too, but it was, I thought it was like, it kind of showed a richer texture for in Blackmoore.
Thank you. It's like the child that nobody understands, except for people who maybe have a kind of a similar darkness in their past or even in their present. You know, like, yeah, I know what that kind of a relationship feels like. You know, then I think that it can be really moving. But you know, I never intended. What I almost did not publish Edenbrooke. So I spent a year trying to find an agent for it. And I had some agents who were interested in it, but they said, there's no publisher that will publish this without sex in it. And I said, you know, I'm not going to add sex to it because my whole point in writing this was to try to bring back the Georgette Hare style of Regency romance.
With like the heightened sexual tension, and it's like the touch or the brush of a hand, or just like,
so I was like, that just goes against the whole reason I wrote this. So I was ready to put Edenbrooke away and never publish it and write what I felt like I really wanted to write, which was young adult fantasy. I mean, it's very different, right? But that's what I had been reading for years. And anyway, so I said so I had sent it to my publisher and they said that they wanted to publish it. And then I sent them an email and said, actually, I don't think I want to publish this because I don't want this book to dictate what I write going forward. Like, I want to be free to explore different genres, and I'm not sure that I want to be a romance writer. You know, it was just the first thing I wrote. And they said, no, we love it. Let us publish it, please. And, you know, thank goodness they did, because it's changed my life, you know, and it was a good start. But I still feel that sense of, I don't want to be trapped. I don't want to be constrained. I don't want to be told what to write or have these really limiting expectations. Like, you know, I just want my freedom. And I think that that's partly my personality, and partly because I was trapped. I was in a bad marriage for a long time. And that kind of feeling inside me is like, even though I'm out of that marriage, it's still very much there. Like, don't restrain me, right? Don't tell me what to do. And so I have to like really balance that, like my own personal feelings about how I want to create art versus commercially what art is going to sell. And that's always a trick.
Yeah. Maybe. And then somebody else deciding what your brand is. Okay, so we are almost at the end of the hour. I can definitely go longer. Julie maybe can go longer. Before anyone leaves, why don't you tell them? I'm going to tell them what you've got going on. Julie has partnered with me as Elevenses Society to offer a class. She's been taking on some editing clients recently, and she feels like, and a lot of the people who have been giving her feedback are like, could you teach a class? And so I am proud, Elevenses Society is very proud to present Julianne Donaldson and her Fundamentals of Storytelling. It's called First things first, the fundamentals of storytelling. And it will be starting in 2 weeks. It will be this kind of style. I'll be there moderating, but Julie will be doing most of the talking. And she will be sharing with you. It'll be a 6-week course, and she'll share with you all the things that you need to do to write your own novel. So that is going to be starting. And the great thing is it will be live just like this. You'll be able to ask questions, get feedback. It'll be an intimate and one-on-one experience. And the great thing is, because it's going to be on Zoom, it can be anywhere. You can be anywhere. We'll be here, and then you can watch it live and participate live, or there will also be replays available for you. Like when you pay for the course, you get to watch the replays till forever or until the internet dies. I want to say lifetime membership, but people think it will be for the life of how long we've got Zoom and can do these things. So is there anything I left out?
No, I think that's great. I think, what I found when I opened up my services for editing, I found a lot of writers who really wanted to improve their craft, and just helping them with the one manuscript was, there are so many limits,
Yeah.
And I just thought what did I want? What made the difference for me as a writer? It was starting going to conferences. And then what did I want though is, like, instead of going to a conference for a weekend and then going back home and trying to incorporate it all myself, like I would have wanted someone to, like, take me all the way through the process, give me a community. These are just the things that have helped me as a writer, just to get a community and get that consistency of learning and incorporating.
The class is going to be $395 for the 6 weeks, but if that's too much to pay all at once, you can break it into payments, and there's 2 payments of $210. So I know that for me, that would have been like that. For me to take a class from a writer that I really respect, and not only is Julie a great writer, she's also a great teacher. Some people who are really fantastic at their craft aren't great teachers, but Julie is both really great at what she does, and she's a great teacher. She listens, she pays attention, and she just has a really great way of explaining what she's doing. And she's very insightful about the whole writing process and everything. So I think this would be a fantastic class.
I'm so embarrassed about this. You were talking me up too much, but thank you.
Well, I'm just excited. I get to go for free, basically. So I'm really excited to be a part of the class. And I hope all of you can sign up for the class. And it is really worth it. If you've been thinking about it, then if it's just like, I know I can do it, but there's just, or maybe you've already started writing, but maybe you're not getting the answers that you want. Julie knows what it's all about. And not only that, but I think a lot of us, maybe some of us, want to be like the great American novelist, and that's great. But I think a lot of us are like, I want to write a book that people really like and that sells a lot of copies. Yeah. And Julie has done that. And so she's like the perfect person to take a class from. And all right. So do people want to stay a little bit longer? And Julie, are there any more questions? We can keep going.
Yeah, let's do like another.
And don't feel bad if you have to leave, just leave. You won't hurt our feelings. Even if you have your camera on.
Yeah.
We'll know that you left.
Okay, so Laura says, what time and when is the class? So we're going to do it Thursday evenings.
Yep, starting 2 weeks from today. Yeah. Thursday evenings at 7. Recordings will all be there. And then you can watch them. So if there's some classes that you can make and others that you can't, that's fine. It'll all be on our course website. So, and I use Thinkific. So they're a really good company and they'll handle payments and stuff like that. So.
So questions. I think Mary asked a question. She says, I would love to know how it was working with your publisher. Would you ever want to pursue a larger publisher someday? So every publisher, it's like a relationship with anyone, right? You're going to have things you like about the person and things you don't like about the person. And same thing goes with publishers. Publishers are really just a marketing machine. They distribute the book and they market the book. And if you're lucky, you get a publisher who thinks your book is worth a lot of marketing money and can do a good job distributing it. But
and also some of them are better at editing than others.
Right. Yeah.
Some publishers really want to make that book really shine. And those are really the best ones, because if they'll take the time to edit, then that's resources they're already putting in. And then they'll also hopefully be more keen on marketing the book for you as well.
Yes. So yeah. So I have things that I like about my publisher, and then I have things that I don't like about them.
The great thing about going to Shadow Mountain is that you were the first romance they had ever had that was historical. And so they launched it not only as a lead title, but as the first in a series of other books that they wanted to do. So it was really, I mean, as far as, career positioning, it was really, it really worked out well for you.
Yes, it did. Yep. And I'm super grateful that it worked out the way it did. I don't think I could have, they started the Proper Romance imprint because my agent said to them, hey, you got to find a way to set this book apart from other romances, because right now there are romances with sex in them, and then there are romances without sex that are Christian, and that's it. That was all that was on the bookshelves. She says, figure out a way to market this so that people know it's not religious, but it also doesn't have sex. And so they came up with the term a proper romance. And since then, there are other publishers that have started wholesome romances, clean romances. They've started to do sweet romances. And I think that there's so many opportunities now for writers who want to write in the clean romance genre that weren't available 10 years ago. So It is great that that's happened.
And I always give Julie credit for that. So good job, Julie.
Well, it doesn't happen with just
I know the girl that started with.
It's
all right. So does anybody have any other questions?
Someone has a question about Blackmoore. Why did you decide to bring them back to Blackmoore? Why did they leave India? And what was their reason for coming back to Blackmoore? You changed the ending. What was the original ending? Okay, so the original ending to Blackmoore was the scene. It originally ended at the scene when Henry goes to India and finds her, and they have the reunion, and they're in love, and they're going to get married. Yay, the end. And then my editor said, I just feel like that's not a really satisfying ending. I want to know that they're going to be happy. And so can you give me something more? So in my mind, my story question for both Henry and Kate was, can I be free to pursue my own life, right? And so in the climax, when Kate leaves and makes it to her aunt's house and then she goes off to India, that was her story question being answered. Yes, she can go make her own life. And when Henry decided to leave Blackmoore and give up his inheritance to go chase after the woman he loved, yes, he got his freedom too. So everything beyond that was just extra. It was extra happy for them that they got to also be together, right? But in a typical romance, the story question is, will they get together? So So in that sense, the will they get together and then it ends. Oh, well, where's your denouement with that? You know, so I could see the editor's perspective. So I gave them a little denouement, but I didn't want, she's like, I want to know that he got Blackmoore too, that he didn't have to give it up. And I just thought, I don't agree with that. I think that sometimes you do give things up in order to get something even better. You know, like, what's a house compared to the woman you love and a family? It's nothing. It's just a house. And but I kind of gave into the pressure I was getting from my editor, and I thought, well, I'm not going to give them that ending, but what I'll give my readers is a really obscure, like kind of like the ending of Inception, you know, where the totem is spinning and you don't know if it's going to stop or not, and it kind of doesn't matter. I just made it vague, you know, like I just let people say, just imagine whatever they wanted with the ending. Do you imagine that the happiest ending for them is to go back to Blackmoore? Then that's Blackmoore that they see on the cliff. Do you imagine that their happy ending is to buy their own home that they can do, you know, they can live how they want there? Then that's the house that they see on the cliff. And because I didn't choose for them, there is no choice. It's the ultimate choose your own adventure ending.
So, okay. Well, everyone, I just think this has been a wonderful time. I think it's fantastic. So if you want to be a part of Elevenses Society, you can join our free Facebook group. It is called Connect, Connect, Create, Celebrate. And it's a group for enterprising and creative women. So we are just getting started. This is all just like at the beginning, and I've got some offers that I'm getting ready so that you can be a part of Elevenses Society as well. If you want to be a part of it, you know, join our Facebook group, and things are going to be rolling out very soon. But Julie and I, one thing that we do as part of Elevenses Society, and Paula and I have been doing, and then some of our other guests here, what we do is we get together once a week, sometimes once a month. It depends on what group I'm in or where we live or what our schedules are like. It's about 30% social, 40% social, and then we talk about what our dreams are and what our ideas are and what our plans are. Because to me, besides Julie just being a wonderful person, what I really value about our relationship and our friendship is that we really have a way to kind of, like I was saying before, we're both looking towards dreams and things like that, and it's an exciting relationship, and it's very supportive, and it's been really wonderful to see each other through the years, through our ups and downs of our dreams and careers. So the idea is we meet and we have small groups, and we meet and we do kind of what Julie and I do, but on a larger scale, and we get to know people. And so there's the option to be a part of our huge group on Facebook, which is free. And then there's going to be a membership where you get support and you get to be in lots of these kinds of meetings for, you know, for the membership fee. And then there's another membership level where I actually curate groups and put you with just the right groups to be with the right people, so that you can have kind of the situation that we've got going on. So that's what we're doing, and I'm so excited. Let me put the Facebook group in here, and then we'll say goodbye. Is there any link that you want to put up? Do you want to put up your website, Julie?
No, you guys, you can find it if you want it. It's just juliannedonaldson.com. Yeah, things really kind of changed for me when we started this. You know, some people call it a mastermind group, but we started this in December, and just the women in the group have such different backgrounds and expertise and ideas that I never would have thought of. I never would have thought of teaching a writing class, but as soon as someone else thought of it, I was like, oh, that sounds fun. You know, and the same thing goes with what Jamie's working on and with what Laura and Kat and other members of our group are working on, that we come together and we find this creative synergy where we can all help each other drum up ideas. And then I get these great girlfriends who are successful in their own pursuits, you know, giving me pep talks, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Julie. I'm so glad that you're a part of it. I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. And the reason why it works, somebody was saying this online. I just learned this term. It's called structural tension. And that's what we create. So like when you get going with your writing, and Julie's going to talk more about this in her course, but when you get going, you're going to want to be in critique groups, and a good critique group. Some are better than others, but it creates this structural tension, sort of like walls around you and parameters that kind of, you know, sometimes we have big dreams, and a lot of times we either we think we're finding it easier to not do anything, but often it's that we have a lot of things holding us back, and that they're probably not the right things that are holding us back. And so having the structure of a group allows you to, you know, kind of have like built-in accountability partners. And, you know, nobody in Elevenses society is, well, at least I hope not, but like nobody is supposed to be like, when's your, you know, you set a goal, you got to finish it. Like, what are you going to do? It's usually very like, all right, what do you think you're going to do next? And then we usually answer the questions ourselves. And in fact, most of the time in the group, the things that we learn, I mean, there are things to learn from each other, but usually the things that we learn are the things that are coming out of our own mouths. That is that. And I'm so excited that you guys came. Thank you so much. Julie.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing your talents into the world.
Be brave. Be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Go eat chocolate.
And drink tea.
Drink tea.
Dream big. What's my tagline for my website was dream big, make plans, eat cake. So there's so much to celebrate.
Okay, mine is dream big, write stories, change the world.
There we go.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. Goodbye. Bye.